What's your story? Whether you're a client or an independent financial advisor, we know you face many important decisions that can affect your and your clients' long-term financial success. Welcome to the WIN Podcast, What's Important Now with Corey Heimensen, accredited investment fiduciary and president of Heimensen Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, Corey helps you identify your goals and objectives through financial education and comprehensive planning, while inspiring you to make better behavioral decisions in your personal finance. With a twist on pop culture and current events, join us as we explore growth and protection strategies for individuals, advisors, and their businesses. Come and discover what's important to you now.
Hello and welcome to the WIN Podcast with your host, Corey Heimensen. Corey, you're the man. What's going on?
Eric, good to see you again. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. We love these evergreen podcasts that have good information year round, but we're in a time of year, and we won't say what time of year because we like to keep it mysterious, but it's definitely barbecue season.
I think that's a fair statement. I like to barbecue. You know, I can barbecue in the winter too.
True.
I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, last time I barbecued in the winter, my wife was so mad with all the smoke in the house that I got in trouble. So. Okay, maybe am I not doing it right, Corey?
I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe George Foreman created a whole industry of indoor grilling because of winter. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think my parents used to have, what was it called? It was called a Gen Air. Do you remember those things? It was like built next to your stove. It was like part of your stove, and you could actually grill right there, and it sucked the air down so you didn't have smoke in your house. Yeah, I missed that.
Was that like before the invention of the microwave, or what are we even talking about?
Hey, how old do you think I am? First of all, how old do you think my parents are? Anyway, yeah, okay, we won't. I hope my mom and dad don't listen to this podcast now.
You caught me off guard with this. Usually it's my job to throw tangents out there, but right. You caught me off guard. I don't know.
Well, instead of, sitting here grilling red meat, we're going to grill your guest. You have a guest on the show today. I'm going to let you grill him.
Yeah.
Who'd you bring on and what are you talking about?
Yeah, I've got a guest here, and he's looking at me like, what did I get into? We're talking
Why
about
am I here?
Indoor grilling. This is not what was on the rough pre-show discussion. But anyway, I've got a young gentleman here, Zach Springer.
Yeah. Hey, Corey. How's it going? Happy to be here. Excited to chat with you for a little while. And I love indoor and outdoor grilling, whatever it is.
Yes. I like this guy.
I like that. I like the excitement, versatility. You got it all. But anyway, I've known Zach for a long time, local from my city, my neck of the woods, but we're just going to learn more about him. And he's actually a recent graduate from the University of Iowa, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And graduated from University of Iowa just a few weeks ago with degrees in economics, political science. Then I had a minor in philosophy as well, but grew up in Rock Rapids, was born in Wichita, Kansas, actually. But my dad was finishing his residency and then got a job at the local hospital here. So moved here when I was probably about 6 months old. Grew up, went to middle school, elementary school, high school here, graduated from Central Line in 2019. Grew up kind of getting involved in sports, fine arts, all that stuff. But yeah, then I went off to Iowa and really enjoyed my time there as well.
And so we're going to give a little precursor to maybe where this topic's going or conversation. But Eric, the title of this show is Raising the Bar.
I like that.
So, I mean, that could mean a lot of things.
Good play on words. Yeah.
But where we're going with this, and maybe people will catch that drift, Zach here mentioned political science. Right.
Yep.
And so what does that mean for people, or I mean, a fair amount of people when they go into that type of choice of study? What's the next career path?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the stereotype of getting a political science degree is sort of law school or something government related. But yeah, I'm planning on attending law school in the fall. But yeah, that's kind of the stereotypical, I guess, political science path.
Sure. So, from a higher level view, do you want to be president of the United States someday?
Oh, geez. I don't know if I can handle that. Maybe a high level judge. The dream would obviously be the Supreme Court. I don't know if I could pivot into politics and have half the country hate me, though.
That does seem like the dream of the average politician, right? Hatred,
yeah,
division.
I don't know. I want to be, well liked, I guess. And I suppose no matter what government job you get, you're going to be hated by some people. But I don't know. I'm thinking private sector right now.
Okay. So let's go back in time a little bit to let's go even like high school. I mean, studying, was there a point in high school where you thought, boy, I know what my path is after high school?
I'd say it was more of a gradual sort of decision. So my mom's a lawyer too, and that's sort of where I got the idea. I kind of grew up around the practice, grew up at her firm. I did an internship there one summer, got to talk to a lot of different lawyers, and that was sort of what piqued my interest, I guess. And I'd say I really committed to the decision in college at Iowa through my poli-sci studies. And then I also did a lot of research in like legal research, political research. And I think that was sort of what solidified my decision. So I think less one shocking moment that made me want to go to law school, and more of a gradual decision of, yeah, this is something that I really enjoy and could see myself doing. Right.
And for the average listener, or even myself included, I guess I don't even know what the process looks like. From let's go from that point where you said, maybe this lawyer, political science, politics, whatever that means. I assume you just don't do your classes of undergrad and then you're off and running for the next step. I assume there's a process of preparation or studying, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long process, the law school admissions. And what you're actually seeing now is more people are taking time in between undergrad and law school, working for a few years and then putting their application together. So I'm a bit unique in the sense that I'm going straight from undergrad to law school. But basically, I mean, the first step is, get good grades. Your GPA matters quite a bit. And then you take the LSAT. And then once you're through all of that, you start developing your application. So you create your personal statement, all of your various essays, all of your research in the different schools, and you sort of provide this quote unquote compelling narrative, and you submit it to all the law schools, and then you go through interviews and potentially more than one interview at schools, and basically it's just a really long process, and happy to be done with it, that's for sure.
So, when you said, what'd you say, personal statement, or what was that reference to, or is it like a mission statement or a personalized objective? You said something there, I missed it.
It's sort of infamous in the law school admissions world because every admissions officer says you can write about anything you want. And it's a 2-page essay. And basically through that, you need to tell a compelling story about why you want to go to law school. And that's a very, very broad prompt for an essay, and that's what makes it so challenging. And I actually wrote about my time in Rock Rapids and growing up in high school and rural healthcare. So that's kind of what I drove my narrative through.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's sort of what the personal statement is.
I laugh because in my industry, if you ever talk to any coaches in our industry or investment companies, they always are, trying to give you ideas and suggestions for improving people's view of you or the way you do business. And so the famous one, and Eric's going to laugh at this, is the elevator speech. Right, Eric?
Yeah, 7 seconds long. That's it. So, it's got to be 7 seconds.
I've always struggled with this, that I just think it's corny as hell, But I mean, so I'm throwing you under the bus here, Zach. Now I was going to say like a 20-second ride on the elevator, but Eric's saying you got 7 seconds on the elevator.
It's the express version. Let's go.
It's a fast elevator. So if I'm a random stranger, people aren't supposed to talk to random strangers, but if I said to you on an elevator, like, who are you? What's your mission or your goal? What would be your elevator pitch?
Yeah, so basically what I talked about is, I'm from a small community. I grew up in a very tight-knit environment. I got close to a lot of the people. I saw rural businesses, and sort of what I want to do is help, communities, rural communities, bigger communities, help businesses grow and thrive through legal work is sort of the very broad encompassing view of what my personal statement was about.
Sure. What was that, Eric? Was that more than 7 seconds?
He was really close. I thought that was great.
I tried to make it concise. It's hard though.
I laugh because, if you turned the tables and asked me that question, I'd say, well, in a drab voice, I'd say I'm a financial advisor. And instantly that turns people off in an elevator because they think, oh my God, this guy's going to try and sell me something, and so.
Well, I'm sure lawyers the same way. People don't like hearing about lawyers.
Right. And so,
it sounds like the beginning of a joke, guys. I'm just a lawyer and a financial advisor standing in an elevator. Anyway, so.
That Eric's always telling me I need to tell more people I'm a podcaster because that's way cooler, and then that would intrigue people into a bigger conversation. But actually, when it's all said and done, if you see me in public in some strange city in an elevator, I'm probably one of those people that kind of says hello or nods and then just stares at the front of the elevator and not really looking for meeting a lot of new people.
Yep. Can't say I blame you on that one.
So there you go. So, boy, we got a lot going on. But how about the LSATs there? So you mentioned that. How would one prepare for that? Is that a fair question? Or
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And the LSAT's a very interesting test because I guess I'll compare it to the MCAT, like which the med school admissions test. And that's like hard knowledge. You know, you're getting tested on physics, chem, bio, all of these very hard skills. And the LSAT's nothing like that because as an undergrad, you don't learn anything about the law itself. So they're not going to ask you what does statute 37 of the Iowa Code say.
Right.
It's strictly a test of logic. And so basically there's 3 different sections. And through those sections, they test your ability to sort of interpret arguments, find weaknesses, strengths, flaws in various arguments, point out like different narratives in like reading prompts, or then they have my favorite one is the logic games, which it's literally like Corey is standing in front of Zach, Zach is standing in front of Eric. What number is Zach in the line? It's going to be a little more complicated than that, but it's those like games, and they're basically testing your logic. And they say it's the single best indicator of success in your first year of law school. But it's definitely an interesting test, but it is one that you can study for. So you basically teach your brain to almost think in a different way, thinking through arguments.
Yeah. So, boy, that gets my wheels turning. You know, so I'm comparing the successful mind of an attorney, let's say, versus a surgeon or a medical professional.
Okay.
So would you say, and you certainly don't have to agree with me, but I mean, would the medical professional be more of a, yes, I know this answer type person, where the legal person is more thinking? I don't want people to go away like, boy, Corey hates medical professionals, but you know what I mean?
No, I think that's fair. I think lawyers, it's their job to take more of an investigative approach. Like they're given this problem and they want to be fact finders. One similarity, I would say both need to be very, very attentive to detail, maybe in different ways. But yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
Well, and I know you have, some interest or education in economics, and we can go down that path too, but it gets me excited when you say even like fact finder, because a lot of people think people on my side of the desk or the table just do charts and graphs and, you get the same thing as the last person and the next person. But, so anybody that's listened to my podcast before knows where I'm going with now, and it's got to be personalized. And it doesn't matter if it's working with an attorney on your situation, working with a medical professional or me or an accountant. I mean, you gotta determine what the goals and objectives are, what the person is, and all that good stuff, that it isn't just boilerplate. Maybe is how I should say that.
Yeah. There's not just one right answer to a problem. Every person's going to have different interests, goals, and being very personalized. It's true.
So on that economics front, did you enjoy that part or not?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah. Econ actually, so I didn't start as an econ major. I picked it up second semester of my freshman year just because I found it really interesting because I had taken microeconomics first semester. And it actually became like my main major. I honored in economics, so I wrote like a thesis that probably is really boring. But I found it to be quite interesting, learning sort of a broad page. I did more of the macro, so like I like broad market and less like super micro business focused. But I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot from it.
Well, and I think a lot of people that don't get a kick out of economics, let's say, or haven't really dove into it or don't feel like they want to, they don't understand essentially the way things work. That sounds like a really simple sentence, but I mean, for example, people look at headlines generally, or, if we go back in time to earlier in 2023, the whole debt ceiling type debate. And honestly, the average person, one could argue the average newscaster reporting this stuff, neither one probably understands what they're really discussing or what percentage of our country's spending is even really in play with the debt ceiling that's not mandatory. Basically, you know what I mean? People watch one of those headlines and they think, oh, they're going to cut my Social Security and Medicare. They're, things like that. But truth be told, a large portion of our economy, government-based spending, is in law that has to be made. And you know what I mean? That what's the end part of that whole tangent, Eric? I think it's that headlines are skewed.
It's definitely true. I think having sort of a framework of fiscal and monetary policy through economics, and we all know like the basic supply and demand, it doesn't always work out perfectly, but it's a great framework to at least base decisions on and analyze different things that are going on in the market.
Right. And boy, you're hitting it there. I like that because I tell people this all the time. Over time, markets are efficient. Mm-hmm. But, day to day, none of this stuff, it could all be out the window. But over time, there are efficiencies. You know what I mean? And so a lot of this stuff, you just have to be able to take the emotion out of it. And that can go to healthcare, that can go to law, that can go to politics, and boy, that's hard for people to do.
And I took a couple classes in behavioral economics too, which was really interesting because then you do sort of bring in the people aren't always rational. They make decisions based on emotion. And that's more psychology, I guess, based, but that's really interesting too.
Funny you'd say that. Before I came on this recording today, I had an email from a client. And so without divulging names or identities, basically the point of it was, when we opened account number 4 or whatever it is, the goal was 8 years from now. And now it's been 3. And they're questioning me, well, maybe we should change the strategy because, year 2 didn't work out so well. And that was a year where the market essentially was down in the bond market, down the equity side. And so I reminded them that if you're on an 8-hour plane trip or an 8-year market strategy objective in an account, you don't bail on the plan mid-flight or mid-year. You know what I mean? You don't change objectives because of headlines or irrational thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you have to trust the process. And when you're in financial advisory, I feel like you're not going to get rich quick. Like it's not a scheme. You have to trust that the market's going to work out and money will grow.
Yeah, the goal of all this is really people get wealthy over time because of good saving versus spending habits and good income producing ability. They go out to get the education or they find the job or niche that fits them and then they excel at it. And so we're not on this podcast, no offense to you, saying everybody's got to be an attorney that goes to school for 5, 6, 7, 8 years or 12 years or, but it's great that our society needs different people in different roles.
Right.
By all means. So here's the big reveal that people might be interested in. So as far as I know, Zach here has not told tons and tons of people where he is going to attend law school.
A few, but not a ton, I guess.
Okay, we don't have a billboard outside your house.
Right,
so
exactly.
Just for fun, just because, some of the people listening to this podcast don't know who you are. So, we'll have a little surprise here. So you have brought along with you today 3 baseball hats, I see. And I want you to go ahead and tell me the names of those 3 schools that are logoed on these baseball hats.
Yeah, it's kind of fun when you get an admittance. A lot of times they'll send you a hat. So right in front of me, I have my 3 kind of top choices. So one is UPenn, University of Pennsylvania. One is Harvard Law School, and one is the University of Virginia.
And you visited all these places, right?
I did. Yep. I spent second semester sort of visiting.
Did you visit other places as well?
I did. I visited Columbia and NYU.
Yeah. So you put a lot of research and thought into this.
Yep. It was a big decision. It's a big decision.
So where we're going with this is, sometimes athletes on signing day will bring out the hats and their mom and dad and grandpa are all sitting there and they choose the hat of the school they're going to attend. And, sometimes there's excitement and joy and tears. And sometimes somebody in the family is ticked off because maybe they liked Auburn instead of Alabama, whatever. So I don't know if Eric has any drum roll ability.
Not really.
But I wasn't expecting.
It's one of those things. I'm just curious about, did you even let him know that I'm in Nebraska and where the Huskers are and he's a Hawkeye and we're still collaborating on a podcast?
Well, I didn't want to bring that
you
up.
left that out, didn't you? Okay.
You got us last year, so I don't know if I can say anything.
Exactly. That's right. That's right, sir.
Maybe that's why he's choosing one of these three schools that is nowhere near
Yep.
Iowa or Nebraska. He's getting away from both of us.
Well, that's exciting, though. All right. I don't have a drum roll. I do apologize for that. Yeah.
So would you like to? I'll do play by play. He's going to grab one of these hats and put it on his head over his headphones, and then I will announce. Well, we'll let him announce. We'll let him announce the name of the school. So here we go.
All right. It's not on video, so I'm currently putting my hat on my head, and it's Harvard Law School. That's
Harvard Law.
Yep.
Nice. Wow.
So that's awesome. Good for you. You know what I mean? I do not personally know anyone that sat in your chair that, that's tackling that, and that's super awesome. That's what life's about.
Yeah.
Experiences.
I'm excited. The work paid off. That's for sure.
Cool. That's super awesome. So do you have to tell the other schools that wanted you that you're not coming?
Yep. And that was hard because throughout the process, I got to know some of the admissions officers pretty well through emails and calls, because I would ask them about the school. And then when I went and visited, I would meet with them. And I met tons of other admitted students at these schools. And, we were texting, did you make a decision? So, yep, I had to send the email to all of them. And I tried to personalize it somewhat and just genuinely thank them. But yeah, that was tough.
Was it it's not you, it's me kind of thing?
Yeah, something like that. I tried to be as kind as possible.
Yeah. I got a few of those when I was younger.
There you go. Oh, man. So as you were growing up, we're going to go back in time even before high school.
Sweet.
Was there anything that you really liked to do? I mean, just trying to get to know you a little bit more. I mean, other than the majors and the minors in college, I mean, what really excited you through life before that?
Yeah. So, I mean, one big thing is I'm a big Hawkeye sports fan, obviously, but I love baseball, especially big Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals fan. But outside of sports, I loved doing things like traveling. We got to do a cool trip in high school where we visited a lot of different places. Going to Europe next week, so that's something that really getting perspective on different cultures is something that's really cool. And then I also, I would consider myself a pretty competitive person. That's something that always kind of fueled me. Me and your son Zed were always he always had me athletically, but academically we were a bit more evenly matched. But that's something that was sort of motivating to me growing up, and not necessarily beating the other guy, but more beating myself and my goals. And so whether that's sports, academically, whatever that might be.
Oh, I get it. I joke with everybody here in the office that I'm as competitive as anybody, even if I look like the most calm guy in the room. But anybody that's seen me attend an AAU basketball tournament for one of my kids, or maybe coaching a Little League game, probably knows I'm a little bit on edge. So that as I have birthdays, I am calming down a little bit, that I've determined that strongly voicing an opinion to an umpire or a basketball referee doesn't do any good.
But it's tempting. It's hard. I get it. I was just at my little cousin's softball or baseball game in Michigan, and he was pitching, and there were a couple of questionable calls, and I was like, don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to throw a curve at you here. So this is something I ask every guest, and so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but who would you say is the most famous person you've ever met, or at least saw in close proximity, or, sort of a close encounter, we'll call it? I'm not saying you had to have the elevator speech with him, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll do one that I actually met, and then a different one that I was in close proximity to. So I actually met George Kittle. He's obviously a Hawkeye. He's playing for the 49ers now, and he's pretty good, the Iowa City community. He comes back frequently. And it was actually just this year he came back, and he was just hanging out in Iowa City bars, and I ran into him, talked to him, super friendly guy. Took a selfie with him, talked to him for all 5 seconds. But
he was a little taller than you, right?
Yeah, a little bit taller than me. He's got at least a couple inches on me. But yeah, it's always fun when the pro Hawkeyes come back. I've seen like Tristan Wirfs, and it's pretty cool. And then also when I was in LA a while ago, Mel Brooks, of course, Spaceballs, the director. We saw him. We were on one of those cheesy Hollywood tours where they drive you around and they try to spot celebrities. He was the only celebrity we saw, but he was super friendly, waved at the bus, and that was pretty cool. I'm a big movie fan myself, so I enjoyed that.
You think that was sort of staged, that they just put him out there certain days,
or
it was
just
possibly random?
Very possibly staged. They said this is a coffee shop he likes to go to, and there he was right there.
Wow, super cool.
Uh-huh.
Super cool. What else you got for me? Got anything random you want to talk about?
Well, we can always chat about your college experience and kind of what you enjoyed when you were in college and kind of what you were involved in, that sort of stuff.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll call that bluff. So, so you mentioned the George Kittle story. So that sounded like you were in an establishment known as a bar.
Yep,
right?
I was.
So when we named this thing Raising the Bar, so I mean, it seems like we're sort of coming full circle.
Yep.
So, okay, let's go. I'll challenge you back. How about if we each try to pick 3 bars from our history of college? Now, my college was many years, if not decades, before yours, and we'll just highlight 3 apiece.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, let's do it.
So you can go first or I can go first. I don't care.
Should we do like I do one, you do one?
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you start.
I'll start at third. So I'll do top 3. And I should preface, this is as a graduated senior. If you would ask me this as a freshman in college or a sophomore or a junior, I probably would have had different answers.
Well, exactly, because you wouldn't have been old enough to get in.
I wouldn't have been in the bar. That's exactly right. So it's from an outside perspective looking in.
I sound like an attorney.
Yes, you do.
Hypothetically, let's say you were in there as a freshman, sophomore, or junior as well, though.
Okay, so just
You can just, we'll act like we don't know when you were there.
all right. That sounds good. All right, we'll do third. So I'm going to go with the Airliner, which it's a pretty historic bar in Iowa City. You know, my parents went to school at Iowa too, so they went to the bar. They've got this really cool drink called a Hammer, which no one really knows what's in it, but you kind of do. Good. They let a bunch of my college friends would work there, and they have dollar slices on Sunday, dollar pizza slices.
Okay.
Just a good atmosphere, good environment. So that's probably my third favorite.
Sports bar type, I assume.
Sports bar type,
Well,
yeah.
Okay. My number 3, I went to college at Buena Vista, which is in Storm Lake, Iowa. And I'm going to call it number 3. Might have been the place my friends and I spent the most time, but I'm still making it 3 on the list. It was called Bojangles.
Oh, okay.
Which was basically pool and darts on the main floor, dance hall in the basement. And actually now I have a fun story.
Oh, boy.
Okay, here we go. So my buddies and I would frequent the place frequently. And so my one friend got to know the bar owner quite a bit. And he was a large gentleman.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to say 6'4", 300 pounds north, or something. So there's a Saturday, he had notified my friend that he needed 2 guys to come and help move a pool table.
Okay.
So my friend, who's a bigger, stronger guy than me, recruits me for some reason. So me and my friend show up there to move this pool table, and the guy looks at us like, and he says to my friend, Donovan was his first name, Donovan, why'd you pick this guy?
Oh, man.
And I'm like, I was sort of offended at first. And then they proceed to tell me they're moving the pool table from the main floor down the basement steps to the dance floor area. This isn't a straight staircase. It's a curved staircase,
Oh, wow.
like a lot of steps. And so the bar owner and his friend are strong, big dudes,
Yep.
for lack of a better phrase. My friends, same category. I am easily barely north of half the size of anybody that's else is in this project. So we start this project, and pretty soon I figure out I'm on the bottom side of this thing with my friend.
Oh, man.
And we yelled up top. We're like, how come us 2 guys are down here? And they said, because we wanted the small guy down there in case this thing, gets away from us.
Oh.
Whew. But anyway, we got it done. And that's the last time I moved a pool table.
Yeah, those things are not light either, so I can only imagine moving it downstairs.
It was a disaster. But anyway, it was kind of a fun place to hang out with.
Yeah.
Or at, I should say.
There you go. Cool. Well, we actually have a bar called Bo James, so similar to Bojangles, but not on the list, unfortunately.
Interesting.
Yeah, my number 2 is Brothers. it's probably the biggest bar in Iowa City. They always do these polls on like Twitter about best bars, and that's always kind of the one that wins. But they do this thing on Thursdays. It's called Mug Club, where you pay $4 for a little mug, and then it's $1 refill. And so it's an upperclassman bar, but you'd always go there and do Mug Club on Thursday nights. If you didn't have an exam the next day or something. And it's a cool crowd, huge bar. They've got a nice outdoor patio area, and that was a cool place to hang out. It's a Chicago style bar. They've got a couple other different ones in different cities or college towns around the country.
Very cool. That story allows me to tie in inflation.
Okay.
So before I announce number 2, I'll go back to number 3. So Bojangles, the place I mentioned before, on Friday nights from 7 to midnight would have Drown Night, is what they called it. $5, all you can drink.
Pretty good.
So in your scenario, $4 for the mug, $1 for the drink, right? So mine was $5, and that covered you the whole night. You spent way more on pool and darts and things like that. So the point of that, things cost more today than they used to.
And that's the best deal in Iowa City, too. You go somewhere else, and it's not even close to $5 all you can drink.
Well, there you go. So, but we are all about moderation, right?
Right.
There you go. Okay, anyway, number 2, also in Storm Lake, we went to a place called Larry's Tap. It was just a downtown 100-year-old place where retired gentlemen would hang out pretty much all day long, and then they had a pool table or two, and then all the college kids would show up, and that would be when all of the local town people would evacuate because they didn't want the jukebox, which was a machine over in the corner where you put money in.
I know the
juke. Oh, okay.
Come on, they're fun. Yeah. They're still around in some places.
I'm in my mid-50s. You're in your early 20s. I gotta try to be funny here and there. So how about your number 1?
So my number 1 is probably, if you went to school at Iowa in the past, this probably wouldn't be on your list, but it's sort of a big up and coming bar. And the past couple years, it sort of became like the spot in Iowa City, and it's DC's is what it's called, and it's the perfect game day atmosphere. You might remember when the Hawkeye women were in the national championship for basketball. That was the spot to be. They've got a huge big screen, 2 floors, great environment, especially for game day, but also just on a regular night. It's always a good crowd. They have steins, which are those big glasses, and you get a stein of beer for like $4. So, not $5 all you can drink, but still a halfway decent drink.
Yep.
And that was kind of our favorite spot this past year, senior year. So I'd say that's my number 1.
Okay. Before I announce mine, I'm going to go off on a new tangent. So when you mentioned the Iowa Hawkeye women and Caitlin Clark, and you're in the legal profession, or I mean, in the know, how about, what is your take on college athletes essentially getting paid for NIL, name, image, and likeness ability?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know a ton about this, but sort of my just very broad view thoughts are, I think it's good that athletes are getting paid. I think it does cause some issues, especially with the transfer portal. I think you're seeing a lot of athletes just go to where all of the money's at, and I think that's going to help the bigger market schools, your Bamas, your Blue Bloods, and I think that's going to hurt. Iowa actually had a pretty good transfer portal, but I think that is gonna hurt, smaller market schools, especially non-Power 5 schools.
Right.
But again, I don't really know. I've seen some commentary from coaches and executives that are saying it's because of NIL that's causing all of this transfer portal chaos. So I mean, I think it's good that athletes can make money off their name, if they're the ones kind of bringing in the revenue, but maybe there needs to be a little more regulation or something to moderate it.
Yeah, I think throughout history there's proof that boosters, athletic boosters, would get money, or sports agents would get money to athletes. And so maybe it's good from that perspective that there's a legal way to do it now, this NIL stuff, where it's an agreement, it's a contract essentially. So I get what you're saying. The problem to me probably becomes the NCAA with the portal, meaning that I don't know the details, but it seems like essentially anybody can transfer anywhere they want at any time. And a lot of that, I don't know, it's because of COVID. If we make up a rule that's like, now you get more freedom, so I guess I'm good with the NIL freedom to take advantage of your name and your likeness if I'm the athlete. Maybe the portal should be tightened up where if I'm going to choose Alabama because they got money to pay me the NIL dollars, then I better just go there first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of having a good year at Iowa or Louisville or somewhere, and then you transfer, to a more winning program or a program with money.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of issues with the portal.
But I mean, if we live in a capitalist country, shouldn't people be given the right to make money?
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. There you go. I threw that at you out of left field. That was out of nowhere. But generally, and I've said this before too, if you want to know the answer to something in life, you follow the money.
Yeah, that's
what I
true.
mean. And that's always the case. Anyway, bar number 1 for Corey, and so this one, I am picking this one purely on name recognition alone.
Okay.
So this is actually from my hometown of Primgar, Iowa. There's only one Primgar in the world, by the way.
Oh, and I've been there.
And so there was a restaurant, and then they had a lounge in the back. And so this, I mean, I was growing up, I was a young kid, but I'm just going with the name being cool. It was called the Cat's Eye.
Nice.
Now, the funny part of the whole story is the I is spelled capital I. It's not like EYE.
Oh, that's weird.
That's what I thought. And so now the proprietors of that place, whose names were Orly, and Edna, was their first 2 names. But anyway, they're gone. And I don't know if there's still family in North America that might run across this podcast, but I would sure love to know what their thinking was when they went with Cat's capital I.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there's a story behind it, but it's just
nothing.
unknown. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weirdest part of the whole deal, in that lounge on the wall, there was a clock that was a black and white cat whose tail would swing side to side like a grandfather clock pendulum, and its eyes of the cat would move the same way as the tail.
Little weird. Little weird.
So I have no other details about the greatness of the place other than just now the building's gone, the people are gone. It's a memory.
It's got character, that's for sure.
Well, there you go. What do you think, Eric? You got any input on that, or is it just too damn weird?
I'm still trying to figure out what this bar you speak of is. What is a bar? What is a bar? Establishment where you can get beverages? This is what we're talking about?
Yeah. Is this an Iowa thing? Are we confusing all of our national listeners?
Possibly. I don't know. I can't say that I've ever frequented a bar or one with an I in it, or one that you can drink all you can drink for $5. Good gravy. That would have been that could have been a problem. I wouldn't be here if I had found a bar like that.
Well, and the funny part is, they opened at 7:00 on Friday night, and it'd be like the same 14 guys that showed up at 6:45, like just standing in line. It was like Black Friday.
Tears where they just walk in. Norm. Everybody knows exactly who they are. That's fantastic.
You make memories, you move on, and see what you can do. And we all try to just make the world a better place by the time we check out. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic.
So unless there's any final questions from our studio audience, I think we're good to go here today.
Yeah, I think Zach, I want to apologize because I did not know the direction of this podcast when we started, and I never would have said anything about red meat had I known you possibly might run for president, because I think we just ruined you right there. And then Corey brought up the bar scene. So now that people know that you've gone to bars and had red meat, I think you're out. I don't think they'll elect a president like that anymore.
Yeah, I guess I might be in trouble on that front, but I'll just have to embrace it.
But you'll be in good company. So
perhaps we should now include a disclaimer that we did all of this in fun and fabricated the entire. Any stories are not truthful.
I'm actually not going to Harvard. I'm not from Iowa.
That's the opinion of
No. Yeah. But all seriousness aside, if you do get to a high level position in Washington, I might be about ready for a career change where I could be a Treasury Secretary or something.
Hey, perfect. You got the job already. I'm sure they could use you in DC.
I don't know.
You know that for a fact. Any listener to this podcast knows that DC could use Corey's help every day of the week. So,
absolutely.
For sure. Well, gentlemen, if there is anything else, please, by all means, speak now or forever hold your peace. I think this was a great podcast. A lot of fun. Zach, you were a great guest.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a blast. Always great to chat with you, Corey, and good to meet you, Eric.
Maybe we should bring you back in 2 years after you've got a little deeper in the pool.
Yeah, maybe I'll probably have some more insight. Probably can complain about brutal law school classes and learning about black letter law and millions of hours of studying. So right now I'm in the great phase where I can say I'm going to law school, but don't actually have to do any of the work yet. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, seems fair.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Next time it should be in-person meeting for all three of us and a steak at a nice bar. And Corey, you're paying.
At the cat's eye.
I'm volunteering Corey.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, hey, if anybody is out there listening, has been a long time listener, or even maybe this is your first one, Corey talks about a lot of different things. He's got a great library podcast. Go back and investigate those. A lot of great educational information. Brings on guests for fun and for education for the audience as well. But go back and check that out. Corey, if folks are listening to this, and like I said, maybe it's not their first time and they're like, you know what? I like the way this guy rolls. I want to chat with him a little bit more about my personal situation. Give them some contact info so they can reach out to you and talk to you.
Absolutely. We like to believe that we do things a lot differently and more personally than a lot of other offices out there. So we're happy to talk to people anytime. Give us a call, 800-657-4316.
Fantastic. Thank you both again. And of course, our last thank you always goes to you, listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Win Podcast with Corey Heimensen. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Corey comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask that you share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, as this actually does help others find the show. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at Heimensen Wealth Advisors, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the WIN Podcast. What's important now? The show that helps you achieve your financial dreams. To ask questions about topics covered during the show or get a copy of Stop Doing Dumb Things with Your Money by Corey Heimensen, visit www.heimensenwealth.com or give us a call at 712-472-3867. Don't forget to click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Securities offered through Securities America Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Inc. Heimensen Wealth Advisors and Securities America are separate entities.